Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Ultra Hardware 44688 and 44689 lock bodies. This video is going to hit both of these types because the only difference is the handing. Okay, the 46888 is a left-hand version, and that's the one that we have here. From my perspective, I would be on the exterior, left hand being defined as the door swinging in, or of course this could be used as a right hand reverse if I was on the outside. Okay, and then conversely, the 44689 is just the opposite. If you were on the exterior, it would be a left hand reverse door. Okay, or I would be on the interior of a right hand door at this point. So I'm going to put one of the lock bodies away and just now focus on everything else important about the item. I gotta tell you, first impressions are that this is a great lock body. It's substantial in its weight, is the impression that I instantly get. And while that's not very scientific, it does also give you an idea in terms of, a general first impression. So working on only the left hand, or the 44688 model now, very heavy latch bolt, very stiff spring assembly that's in here, and this is reversible. You'd be able to remove this screw and this screw. This retaining plate is going to come off. The two springs will come out, and then at that point it will there's two springs in there. I'm going to unscrew that to inspect it further. Pause this video so that I could get my screwdriver. I don't want to leave anything left to being unknown in these sorts of videos as much as possible. So I'm removing the two screws, but before I go on to say that it's reversible, the lock body is certainly going to be reversible, but part of, and be careful when you loosen those screws, that part that's back there is under tension from the springs, under compression. The jumping forward, the faceplate, of course, is not reversible because this model features that inserted weather strip seal. Okay, so keep that in mind. You might you can flip the lock around, but the lock faceplate you won't be able to. We'll go over that more in a minute. So I've got this part here. I'm just going to gently lift it out, and yeah, I can see at this point there's only two screws. Okay, there's your assembly here. That whole assembly will come out. Okay, it's really obvious how it goes together. There's your parts, your dead latching tab. So I'm just going to put it back together the way that it was. And that faceplate, as you saw, was in the aluminum finish. So once you get the assembly back in, these two screws are not the same. The smaller of the two springs will go for the dead latching tab. You can kind of see there, even though it's a bit exaggerated, that those two springs are not the same diameter. So be sure to put that with the large screw for the latch. You can see that the detents are different size. The big one has to go to that spring. So I'll get that seated back in there. Okay, so there is also a link below this video to the installation instructions, and they give everything important dimensionally about the item that is important to know. This sort of hardware is going to be used on aluminum storefront style doors, and it's very rarely, if ever, used on other types of doors because it's not really intended to be installed onto anything but aluminum storefront doors in terms of the mounting tabs. And what I mean is the screws that you're going to get, these long bolts, they're meant to go into the receptacle that's already in the aluminum door for this. If you were to try to install this onto a wood door, which you could certainly do, you're just going to have to come up with your own machining template and different screws, and it would certainly work, but it's not typical because Well, stops on aluminum frames, blade stops they're called, are typically very small, whereas in a hollow metal frame you're going to have a 5/8 stop. The backside of this, and that's an important thing to take note of, is 1 1/8, so you really wouldn't be able to even clear the stop of this. So before trying to apply this to some other kind of lock set, keep that in mind. Now, I'm going to pause this video again to get the instructions. Okay, so there's a link below this video to the installation instructions. And like I said, they're more of a definition in terms of dimensional properties of the item itself, and I'll go over that in a moment. In terms of where the hole is to be located is very important to know if you're doing a new installation. However, generally people that are buying these are doing a replacement is what is happening. We'll get some generic dimensions of the item because they're all here. I don't want to belabor them all in this video. 6 7/8 is the typical height on this lock body. Okay, with a width of just over 1 inch. Okay, in terms of the preparation anyway. I mean, it's marginally over 1 inch. Now, this lock is 1 1/8 back set, and that is measured from the edge of the door to the center line. Now, on this lock body that we have here, you can see that it's not quite 1 1/8, and the reason is because it's measured, of course, with the faceplate installed. That would be an accurate, the armor front. So from the edge of the door to the center of the hole is 1 1/8. And that is a very common size for these sorts of items. You can see there on that template where the hole is supposed to be located and its diameter must critically be at the proper back set, which is 1 1/8. Okay, 1 1/4 diameter hole for a mortise cylinder. The length is typically 1 inch, although 1 1/8 you can use lots of lengths depending on you might have a need for interchangeable core, a 7-pin interchangeable core, and you'll use a blocking ring. That doesn't really matter. Finish and length of cylinder is based on your needs. What you have to have for this lock, though, is an Adams Rite cam on the back of it. Is what it is known as in the industry. You can see also from the lock and cylinder installation how there's a typical setup here showing the cylinder and a cylinder ring should that be needed. You're also going to see the armor front and the strike plate, which is included, and I'll show that to you in a moment, but also commonly an inside lever. So that's an option. Inside levers can be done, inside thumb turns, variations on levers can be done, a double cylinder can be done should you need to be able to lock it also from the inside. These instructions really serve as a very generic sort of piece of paperwork showing variations on the armor front that can be ordered, depending on the bevel of the door, the hand of the door, whether it's flat or radiused. You're going to get what is called a radius with a weather seal. That's the number 6L, a radius with weather strip with this lock. Okay, that strike plate we talked about a moment ago. Very common strike plate for aluminum storefront installations. That's 2 5/8 tall. And how these are measured are from the center line of the screw holes to the edge of the lip. 1 3/8, very common, with an overall of 1 7/8. When you're installing this, you're going to need to make sure that the center line of the hole of the strike plate is the center line of the latch. Make sure that if you're doing a new installation, add 1/8 of an inch when you're measuring on the frame. If you're butting your tape measure to the underside of the header, assuming 1/8 of an inch gap between the top of the door and the header itself. But like I said, this is usually replacement sort of work. Like I said, first impressions are that it's very nice, very solid, very stable. How you hold your screw in, your thumb turn or your cylinders or whatever's going in here, these 2 set screws, of course, a very typical generic sort of design. Very nice quality item from Ultra, and that is not the case with everything Ultra. In the sense of being overly impressed with the quality. However, they are a full-line manufacturer of many things builders hardware related. So if you have any questions on this or any other Ultra hardware product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.